Hey YouTube, Freedom for Kaz here. Hey, hope everyone had a great weekend. I know I did. I enjoyed my Father's Day, and I hope everyone had a great Father's Day for those of you who are fathers. I know that Tony Hayward had a great weekend. I understand he was at the yacht races, and I hope he had a good time too. Meanwhile, all the other people who are working in the golf, risking their health, their families, for their wives and their children, and their homes, their livelihood. I think it's horrible that Tony Hayward took a trip out of town to go enjoy his sailing yacht named Bob, of all names. Yes, his boat is named Bob. Do the research and you'll find that out to be true. You know, if you guys can't figure out yet that BP and Tony Hayward and our government don't really care about the people in our country, I don't know what it's going to take for you people to wake up. I mean, I've been watching some interesting videos lately, and there's been a lot of information that's really changing course now from it being a disaster to this possibly not being the oil spill that it's being made out to be. And what I mean by that is there's some information out there that is contradictory how much flow of oil is getting into the Gulf. And you really have to think about that for a moment and say, you know what? How do we really know how much oil is flowing into the Gulf? There's no real way to know. There's no real way to actually figure out just how much oil is going into the Gulf. And the point I'm making is that by them saying there's more and more and more oil going into the Gulf, they increase the amount of disbursement that they're adding to the Gulf. Now, as we all know, in my previous videos, I've talked about the core exit 9500, and it's 4 times more toxic than the oil itself. The EPA wants BP to use less toxic disbursements, but BP refuses. And again, if you view my earlier videos, you will see that everything is connected. Halliburton, BP, the oil rig itself when it blew up, the cleanup companies, the disbursement companies. Just if you research my past videos, you'll see the links. All the links are there, and there will be links underneath this video as well. But getting back to the point, it's very interesting because the more oil they say pumps out, the more core exit they add to the water. Now, there's been some very interesting videos, like I said, that I've seen, and it makes a good point. I mean, if you take a reference like 9/11, okay, when 9/11 first happened, 99% of America was like, oh, we got to get these guys and we got to get these terrorists. Well, the truth of the matter is that our government was connected with 9/11. Our government knew that was going to happen. Our government knew more intel about 9/11 than they made it out to be. Sometimes if I wonder, and I wasn't a believer, first of all, right from the beginning, that it was an inside job. It took me a long time for me to open my eyes, but when I did open my eyes, and I just didn't jump on the bandwagon and say, oh yeah, this is what it is. I took about a year to do research on 9/11, and the more I researched, the more I began to realize, hey, you know what? They couldn't have done this without some kind of help, some kind of interior help. So if you go to my channel, I do have a section in my playlists for 9/11 coincidences, and if you watch that, again, with an open mind. I'm not saying that I'm right, I'm not saying that I'm wrong, but I'm saying view it with an open mind. And that brings us back to the Gulf crisis. How do we know how much oil is actually being pumped into the Gulf? We really don't. And you look at it, the timing of all of this is impeccable. The companies that were bought and sold, the rig that was drilling so far deep, the volcanic area that they drilled into, the mud volcanoes that are there. You know, the amount of methane gas that's leaking out. You know, the Gulf floor cracking, okay? But we really don't have any solid information. Yes, the Gulf floor has cracked, and yes, there is some oil seeping through. But does that mean the Gulf floor is going to collapse? I've always said that it's possible. It seems like it would be ready to, but is it really going to? That's a tough question to answer. I just want you people to understand that with the blackjack theory, technically blackjack starts on June 22nd, which would be tomorrow. Folks, I'm not saying that blackjack is going to happen or you know anything horrible is going to happen tomorrow, but if it's just the start of blackjack, we really need to be ready. We really need to be prepared. So again, with my theory of all this, you know, I really took some time this week. As you notice, I haven't made a video in almost a whole week. I really took some time to do some real digging and trying to find out, you know, what's really going on with this Gulf crisis. Because now they're saying it's 100,000 barrels a day, whereas when it first started, it was 5,000 barrels a day. I mean, that is a huge swing of oil. A huge swing of oil. So, I mean, and it's just crazy because the American public, they just buy into it. They're like, oh yeah, they say what it is, and that's, oh, it's got to be this bad now, and this and that. But you know, it was Father's Day yesterday, and I was with my entire family, and still, you know, my whole family is in disbelief of this whole thing. You know, they're like, oh, you know, that's in the Gulf. Don't worry about it. You know, it's not going to do anything. I'm like, I don't understand the view of my family. I don't. I don't understand how it is that my family can just look at the situation, and because it's not in their backyard, they don't care. I mean, they were more worried about the Tigers game yesterday, scoring 3 runs in the 7th inning to eventually win the game. I mean, you know, in the meantime, you know, I'm still getting ready. I'm stocking up food and getting prepared. And what's wrong with getting prepared? All right, let's say I buy all this water and I buy all this food and nothing happens. Well, then that means in the next 2 or 3 months I don't have to go grocery shopping because I've got the food here. I've got it. It's with me. But what if I'm wrong? So what? So what if I'm wrong? What if I'm right? And the crops get destroyed when a hurricane comes through and the Midwest gets wiped out. And let's say that the Gulf floor cracks, like they're saying. The Mississippi River is a ridge that could possibly split. And they're talking about in case you don't know, the Great Lakes are at 600 feet sea level, above sea level, whereas the Gulf floor is at 0 sea level. So what does that mean? That means that water is going to flow downhill, which means that the Great Lakes is going to empty into the Gulf of Mexico. So let's look at it that way. Let's look at it from that standpoint of view. People have an open mind this week. There's a lot going on this week. Blackjack is supposed to start possibly tomorrow, maybe by the end of the week. Who knows? But let's see. Let's see what happens. Keep an open mind. Check the links. You know, I think we got to go in a new direction on this Gulf spill. We got to really start paying attention to what's really going on. Let's look at it for what it is. Let's not look at it in a panic anymore. Let's start to dig deep. Let's try to gather some different kind of information. Let's see where this thing is really going. It started on April 20th, and here it is. It's been 2 months, and it's still pouring out like there's no tomorrow. Folks, keep your eyes open. Keep your ears open. Let's do our research together. You guys have a great day.